Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show, and we're joined here at the New School by a spiritual musical healer and professor at the New School, Billy Harper. Welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Welcome, everybody.
Let me ask you, can you talk about the voice as it relates to the spiritual part of music? I mean, you grew up in the sanctified church. So when did the voice become a realization for you in the melodic music?
Well, the church was African Methodist Episcopal, and the members were sanctified, I'd say. Voice from a small age, everybody sang. Everybody in my family, and it seemed like everybody in church sang. So I just started singing, and it was kind of natural. And I always just heard many good choirs and so many good singers. So that was just the first level. I mean,
were they singing worship? Today's music is worship music. What were the tunes they were? What were the songs they were singing then?
Well, I think it was mainly black spirituals.
So going from the plant, going back to
going all the
diaspora,
way back. And also some newer things that they were called anthems from the African Methodist Episcopal Church, and that's very close to the Baptist Church, the Baptists as well. Usually both groups had the same kind of performance, the same kind of singing, the same kind of service. It seemed that sometimes at the you have the blacks who were not necessarily allowed to be in the Methodist Church, the regular Methodist, so African Methodist Episcopal.
Would you say that your horn playing, you were influenced by singers? It's been revelatory to me to learn that, guitar players were influenced not by their own people that played guitars.
Yeah.
Which singers did you get off on that stretched your vocabulary?
Well, the first musicians in my world were singers, so I was influenced by a lot of singers, I'm sure. I mean, there were so many fantastic singers, even in church. I can't even remember their names, but they were just, people like they sang like Aretha Franklin.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. There were plenty of unsung cats that never got, but they sang her.
Yeah. I mean, there were so many people. You just could have chosen one or out of five who would have been like Aretha. It was amazing, man. And it was so good to be little and around that, coming up with that. So many good singers. That was just the basic thing.
And how did you incorporate that into your own horn, into your own sound?
Well, I also tried. I did sing when I was little. I was going to be a singer, actually.
You still sing, I bet.
A little. But I was going to really sing, and I got interested in the horn. One day I was just coming from school and looking in an instrument shop and saw the horns. And I saw these horns. I saw the horn with all those notes, and wow, what is that? I didn't know what it was. I was just a little boy, 8 years or 9 years old. And I just got interested in how that looked. The saxophone. And I saw one with 3 notes, and I thought, well, that's 3 notes. That's not too much. 3 notes, 3 vowels, right? But I thought that was just 3 notes, not enough. So I wanted one with all those notes. And at that age, I was always asking for Christmas. I want to have that saxophone and a horse. I wanted a horse and a saxophone.
Did you have a farm? No. You just wanted a horse.
Yeah. I was into cowboys and Indians,
Whatever was on TV at that time.
Yeah.
It's true. I know. I dig. So you got the saxophone though.
Yeah, I never got the horse, but sometimes I would go to the country and I'd be around some horses. And I was really excited about that.
Can you talk about when you get on the bandstand today? What is your major intention in playing? I mean, is it about touching hearts?
Well, I suppose I would think of it when I do think about it, it's about touching souls.
Touching souls.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want you to talk about how you cultivate that, how you get the band itself into a collective consciousness to be able to get the audience, and you get that back and forth going. When all of a sudden, that's when the transcendence occurs. How do you cultivate that?
Well, I think with the musicians I played with, we played for so long that once we start, it's almost like getting into a kind of trance.
Oh.
Go
deeper. Yeah, people are loving this.
Once we went into the trance, then everybody's in tune, and everybody's going to the same place. I mean, and it's somewhere up there in heaven. It's great. It's a great feeling. I mean, you can't. It's very hard to do that with a group that you haven't played with a lot. Sometimes, it might take a little while. If you're on a tour, you might hook up and finally get there, maybe. But if you play with the people and you know them, everybody feels similar, and their heads and hearts are in the same direction, then you can go through the...
You're talking about trust, really. I mean, the ability to get into a trance means that you can lose yourself, and therefore you're relying on other. I mean, is it more like people are playing stuff and then you're able to just follow that? It's almost like a telepathic kind of thing.
Well, yeah, it's a little deeper than that. Not just follow, but
yeah, I'm using the wrong. I mean,
yeah. It's more like being connected with a higher power. More like that. And if you can get everybody in the band in that place, then the whole thing just takes off. Music flies.
We talking about like Jabali and Buster Williams? Like who are you talking about? The cats that you go back with, that you play Music of the Heavens with?
Well, I mean, even if you go further than them, I played with Max Roach for so many years. Well, with Art Blakey. Okay, let's go all the way back.
All the way back.
Yeah.
Let's go all the way back.
Right. With Art Blakey for so many years. And in playing with him, there's a certain something. It's like there's a whole training school with him.
Is it more of a mental school? I can't see it being like it's or is it more spiritual?
It's certainly more spiritual, but it's let's see, historical and spiritual. Let's say, I don't know, historical and spiritual.
It's absolutely, yeah. What was Duke Ellington said? 1 foot in the future and 1 foot in the blues.
Yes.
Okay, but continue on this. I mean, I'm focused on this trance, spirit trance component to it.
Mm-hmm.
And you say you go on tour with cats that you're not that familiar with. Maybe you'll connect at one point, but we're talking about all the time.
Yes, I'm talking about something that hopefully the people I play with can get to the same place. But my stuff really comes from that history, the spiritual history, and you know. So for me, I mean, I'm not sounding like Blakey when I play, but it's part of Blakey. You know, and his
The
history,
residue of Blakey.
and his history. Yes.
I dig.
Yeah.
Tootie Heath, I just caught a hang with him in Santa Fe, and he was talking about sheet Elvin. He just always had a hard time playing through rhythms. He said, I always wanted to play something easier like Art Blakey. and I, you know, not being a drummer professionally, like, I mean, you'd say, what is he talking about? But Blakey, if you could talk about the nuances of Blakey, Max, and Elvin, and what made them so spiritual, and the residue that they have left in you.
Yeah. Well, you know, each of those guys had a special. Whether they could, I don't know if they could verbalize it, but they had a special understanding of a spiritual history that I was talking about. I mean,
Can you be a little? I mean, you talked about the spirituals earlier. What is the history you're referring?
Let's see. I'm talking about. I'm not just talking about the spirituals, the black spirituals that were sung. I'm talking about the inner soul, the spirituality of the music. I mean,
And what was happening in society at that time that affected the music as well? Not, I mean, going back in history, the idea of Congo Square, the idea of all of the repression. You know, I mean, the idea of the, I don't want to use anguish cry, but it was just expressing the history of your people. As well.
Yes, yeah, more like that. It had to do with their knowledge and an understanding of their history, which connects to another history all the way back. And it goes all the way back to slavery time, and before.
And before.
Yes, of course. So I mean, it's not that Art Blakey sat and just studied some African drummers. You know, we're talking about spiritual history, and it was just in him. Same thing with Elvin. Same thing with Max.
When did you? I don't think. Who did you play with first, Elvin?
Well, when I came to New York, I was with Elvin at first. But
who were you playing with, Elvin? Who was in that group?
Was it Benny Green, maybe?
How did you connect with Elvin as the first cat? It's amazing to me because when Wilmuth told me at North Texas you guys were burning in your sextet, playing all sorts of jazz messenger stuff, going back to Freddie and Wayne, and those. You were playing stuff that was inflected by that.
Yeah.
But can you talk about the first time you met Elvin?
Let's see. Yeah. Okay, so it happened with Elvin so fast because as soon as I got to New York, Kenny Dorham turned me on to a television people who were doing a special documentary of 4 new people into New York: a business person, a model,
A musician.
jazz musician, and one other person.
Kenny hipped you to this. Is unbelievable. Model,
Yeah,
maybe an athlete, or
he had them get into me, in touch with me.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
And Kenny was from Texas,
and
he
did you know him down there before?
I didn't, but he and my uncle were in school together.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah,
You had actually.
I had met him. I had not.
That was
met
the
him.
first time you had actually left the state of Texas.
Yeah.
So you get the call.
Yeah, and they said that they're doing this documentary, and they want to have the jazz musician, which would be myself, and the model and business person and somebody else, and the show was called The Big Apple.
Wow.
Yeah, on NBC.
So you went to NBC Studio.
No. They filmed in the street. They filmed me.
There's got to be video of this. Where is the video of this?
It must be. I don't know.
So they took just in the street.
I mean, walking in the street trying to sit in with people. I would go to Slugs. Have you heard of Slugs?
Of course.
Yeah.
Dude.
I'd go into Slugs. They were filming it, and try to sit in with Elvin or sit in with somebody.
So this was in the real time. They were like,
oh yeah,
they would be like a day in the life of Billy Harper,
something like that.
And then you'd literally have nothing planned. You'd just be going and saying, "Can I sit in?"
Nothing was planned.
This is
unreal.
unreal.
But I had been trying to sit in before they filmed, before they ever got to film.
So you had already laid the seeds a little bit
of trying to get into New York. Yeah, but they were right there at the very beginning when I was not into New York yet. You know?
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
I'd like to get.
They'd bring in they'd wheel in the huge cameras in it. I mean, they'd bring in all the video equipment.
Eventually, they brought in the cameras, and that's when I had a chance to play with Elvin and Freddie Hubbard and McCoy Tyner at Slugs. You know, that was quite a big thing and a good thing for me. I had been trying to sit in at all the clubs anyway, you know, and usually when I went to the Vanguard, they said, no, get out, no, we can't do that. You know, they don't have people sitting in, you know, they can.
Right.
Yeah.
Would you say that? I mean, Freddie was cool with it. I mean, you know.
Well, let's see.
It's hard to know. I mean, but with Elvin,
Yeah.
I want to get back to the sheets of sound. In so many ways, you know, what Tootie's told me and Kenny Barron. I mean, it was Blakey and Elvin styles were totally different. And Elvin really, they talk about Coltrane with sheets of sound. It was actually Elvin with the sheets of sound.
Well, Elvin had a kind of inclusive, constant sound that made it sound like sheets of sound because it kept rumbling and kept going on. A circular kind of thing that made you, if you were in tune with him, you'd be playing that way. So it would sound like sheets of sound.
How did you lock in with him on the bandstand that night?
Oh, fine, because you know, before I came up here, I had a drummer who played like that.
Who was Michael Carvin? Who was?
No, Michael was already. I think he had left and gone to California. It was Malcolm Pinson.
This is down in Texas.
In Texas, yeah.
So he was already playing with these circular rumblings, sheets.
Precisely.
All right, and then
because we both loved Elvin and Train, you know. That was in Texas, and we had a group that sounded something like that. So by the time I got here to New York, it was just natural to get with either Blakey or Elvin.
I didn't let you finish before about the idea of touching people's souls. When you play live now, I believe we're in a kind of a formula trip as it relates to live music. Actually, last night it kind of bucked the trend. I saw a really hip female trio of burning music. It was just music. It was really good. It was cool because you rarely see three females in that. But a lot of time with jazz now, you know, there are set times. The set lists have a certain amount of time. You're done, then it's set 2, and then the espresso machine. You get your check and you're gone, right? And you're talking about literally a street scholar. You did go to North Texas, but you were walking the streets looking for gigs, and when you got on the bandstand, you played like your life depended on it.
Yep, that was it.
So how do you raise the collective consciousness of a group of cats that you don't play with a lot?
Well, that was not a problem because they were already playing on a certain level, and they already knew how to open their souls and play. All I had to do was just get.
Yeah, I'm not talking like McCoy and Freddie. I'm talking about in modern times. Like how do you raise the collective consciousness of a group of cats that you don't play with?
Oh, I see. Just
that much, yeah. I mean, I've talked to cats where they're like,
"Hey, man, how's it going?
Good, man.
How was your summer?"
It's good to see you.
Yeah, right on.
Great.
Popular guy, dude.
Yes.
Professor here at the New School. But you know,
How do I raise their consciousness?
this guitar player Fareed Haq was playing a quartet gig and in Chicago, and he could tell that the trio, he was a leader, the trio was being a little bit apprehensive, and literally he had played with the ACM for a minute, Fareed, and for about 5 minutes he went off on this most wicked, jagged, insane thing, just wild playing. This is a live show. People were like, "What the heck's going on here?" But the band, it gave them the incentive to burn, and it got them out of their trepidation or their. And so, what are the tricks? Not the tricks, but what do you do in order to raise that consciousness so it translates out to the audience, then back to you guys.
Yeah. Well, I don't.
With cats that you don't normally play with or have
Yeah.
less experience.
Well, it's not just musical. I mean, there's sort of a spiritual connection that you have to make. He probably took them along on his spiritual journey, and they joined. But the music and his spirit and how he plays makes it happen. You can't just just jump up there and do this without musicians who might be in tune with, who might not be in tune with you. They have to be also in tune. There's a tuning kind of thing that happens.
How do you break people out of get them out of their original mindset and put them in the now?
It's the players or the listeners.
The players.
You can't do that with all players, but I mean those who want to go further and who want to really be connected, and usually most of them are want to be most. Sometimes it takes like you said, the other musician that you were describing went out and played some out stuff, and everybody kind of came in.
Well, literally he played for 5 straight minutes, and the whole band was like,
yeah.
It threw them so off, and they had the best. And I guess the point is that after that, it was one of the greatest gigs he ever played in his life.
Yeah.
Because everybody got liberated in some way.
Precisely. Well, you have to get to that area, the area that he got to, which is
right.
Not just mental. I mean, there's some kind of a spiritual area, and there's something that he's doing because he's leading that lets them know that it's okay and it's right. If they can't get that understanding of it's right, nothing can happen.
Do you remember? Can you talk to the audience about when you that moment with Thad Jones and Mel Lewis when something went off?
Yeah.
It actually epitomized what my show is about, which is merely being a conduit. I'm just a conduit of it for information. I'm trying to ask questions or colloquial things and having you, but I get out of my own way and I let it come through me. But that time in Thad Jones, Mel Lewis, that's when you realized that you really had nothing to do with the music.
Yes.
Can you take us through that?
Oh yeah, sure. I don't know what was happening, but I was just taking a solo, and then I always define it as it seems like. Yeah, it sounds kind of funny, but it seems like lightning struck or something.
Right.
And
Well, it was a biblical thing. It was out of the Bible.
Yeah. Well,
it was out of the Bible.
Yeah,
but I mean, before that, you say you were in your head more, or what?
I was at the time, at the beginning of the solo, but then when something struck, then I was not there. It's like I wasn't there, and something took me over, and it was much further than me, It was just. Well, it was a spiritual connection, and I wasn't aware that I hadn't before realized that I could quite get there, but it wasn't like I was getting there. It was like my soul or spirit or something was getting there,
Did it carry over continuously after that in all sessions, or was it?
No. It happened at different times.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was very difficult to get into that particular area. But it has to be a certain kind of tuning, a certain kind of thinking and spiritual opening, and it's very hard to stay in that place. It's almost like walking around being in a real true sense of worship. When you're out there in the street, it's hard to do that, because you got to watch out for the car that's going to hit you.
Not in the Vanguard, though. I mean, so beautiful. I walk around here just in the brief time that we're here, and cats are on there, listening to tunes. What is, if at all, similar to North Texas in terms of methodology of teaching with the new school? Is there any semblance of similarity in the terms of? I guess one of the issues now Tootie was talking about is cats now. They learn sequencing. They learn chord changes, but they don't learn
Yeah,
the
and
heart.
and
how do you teach? I mean,
you can't teach that really.
So when you talk to your classes, you let them know how do they find their heart? How do they find their own sound in this day and age? If you can't even teach that,
Yeah,
I agree with you.
Yeah, it's something you can't teach. I can only hope that maybe if they learn to give enough of themselves to the music, they might get there to that point. But as long as they're into themselves, it's not going to happen. You know, I mean, it's one thing, you know, being a great player and playing, but giving yourself to the music is a different thing. And so that's something you have to discover. If they don't get there, then, you know, then they don't.
What are when they say, well, how do I give myself? I mean, if they're on the bandstand once every 2 weeks, I mean, can you do that? I mean, what are the ways of giving yourself to the music? I mean, Bird would sit in his house and listen to everything on the radio, every type of music, and he'd play it in every key. He learned it in every key. Okay, and I guess that was giving himself. You know, he learned how to play everything that way. Mm-hmm. He was also on the bandstand. Cats would go to Minton's Playhouse. They'd go to, you know, all the great clubs up there and get it out of their system. But what can cats do today to
get to that point?
Yeah. What are the things that you tell them they can do, especially if they don't have the opportunities to play on the bandstand?
Well, you know, there's nothing you can. If I could tell them anything, it would have to be with something that has to do with their own inner growth. It depends upon how they walk this path of music. So it's something about discovering themselves. So I can't tell them how to do that, but something about getting inside and discovering themselves, not just the music in themselves, the spirit of themselves connected to the music.
I mean, this is really heavy stuff, but I mean, it's not something that, aside from Thad Jones and Mel Lewis, what was another experience in your career that you could point to that this played out?
Well, once I realized, and you're talking about the time that I was sort of struck by the
the lightning. I mean, it was out of the Bible. It was
right.
it was a biblical thing.
Yeah.
And we live in this very quantified time now. I feel like at that time also, I mean, just the fact that did you get to see Coltrane play?
Oh yeah.
Can you talk about that experience? Because that dude was playing out at the spirits.
Yeah,
he was playing spirituals.
Oh yeah.
When did you see? Did you see him with the magic?
Oh yeah, I saw him with the. Well, I went to the Vanguard one night, and
when you had moved here?
Yeah, when I got here, and I met him, and before they took a break, he was playing, and all of a sudden, he was screaming and beating his chest, and I thought he had gone crazy. I mean, I didn't know anything about.
This is mid-set. He was beating his chest.
Yeah, while he was playing. While playing, he was.
Wait, hold on. He had the horns. He had a horn in his mouth, and he was
and then,
guttural, like.
And then he started. He took the horn out and started. Well, it was chanting. Okay.
Wow.
And beating his chest.
With beating his chest. Yeah. I love this stuff, man.
But I thought he had gone crazy, man. You know, for me, I had never heard any stuff like that.
But you saw the Holy Rollers in Houston. I mean,
yeah, but no. This was
this was beyond. This was kind of primal.
Definitely. That's what you can call it. Because I mean,
wow, this is a ridiculous. I've never heard Train ever beating his chest before.
Oh yeah. I had neither, and I never imagined. I mean, I didn't know what was happening. For me, I said I thought he was going crazy, but no, man. He was into a whole different area of.
Well, he was operating on a whole different spiritual.
Yeah.
But then you went up and talked to him, and you can you talk about that experience?
I didn't ask him about that. No.
You didn't ask him about meetings. I would have. That would have been the first question. Be like, what was that?
No.
That was not something that even all Even Rasan, like, or nobody. That was nobody. You've never seen anybody do that
No,
ever again.
No, I wouldn't dare touch that. I wouldn't go touch that at all. But he was so kind and very personable. He was just like, a regular guy, humble, great. And I thought I had been training training myself to deal with all what I thought might happen in New York. I'm going to have to deal with confrontation and challenges and so on and so on. So I thought I might have to do that with him. I was ready, but he was nothing like it. Nothing like that.
Did he? I know sometimes. I mean, I remember interviewing Don Thompson and Terry Clark, great rhythm section from Canada, and he. I guess Elvin didn't show up for a set, he invited them up to play at the workshop. Did you get a chance? Did he invite you up to play?
No. I didn't even have the horn. I was just there.
He could have beaten your chest, though.
Right.
How did you? This is really important. When you what was the? In your mind, talk to younger cats out there who are accompanists and need to grow into leaders. What was the biggest challenge for you? As a leader of a band?
Well, I think the biggest challenge probably would have been something that I had to deal with, making sure I keep the integrity of the music while other people are trying to get you to trying to get the band to maybe cater to the audience or play something that has nothing to do with the truth.
Well, okay, but who's
asking about that?
What's pressure? Where's that pressure coming from? The promoter, the club owner, or
usually it seemed like it was coming from promoters and because they were catering to the listeners.
Absolutely, making more pop oriented or understandable.
Or something.
How did you?
I just said. You hired me to play now, so I'm going to play. I'm going to play now.
What I need.
Yeah.
The integrity.
All right.
What does that word mean as it relates to Billy Harper's music? What does integrity mean?
Well, it means everything about truth. Everything about truth and creativity. It has to do with being true to the creator. Creativity, yes. Being true to the creative. Creativity. I was given a gift, I think. I know I was given a gift.
Absolutely.
And so I have to be true to that. I felt like if I didn't be true, then it's going to be taken away. It might be. So, yeah, whether people like it or not, or whether it's popular or not, I have to just be truthful and play the truth.
Was part of the lightning bolt experience the idea that you forgot about because your rudiments were so strong that you forgot it? You didn't even consciously, when you were soloing, you never repeat yourself. All the shamans of the music, they just play forever and they never. That's what Kenny Barron was saying. It wasn't that Elvin and Train got on there for 40 minutes and did drums and bass.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, drums and horn.
Yeah,
it was the fact that Train never repeated himself, nor did Elvin, ever. Mm-hmm. How did you learn not to? Was that part of the transcendence with that lightning bolt?
That's part of it. It's like getting to it's not so mental as I was saying, So it's like getting to a new level of spiritual expression. And maybe I might have been. No, at the time I wouldn't have been able to say it verbally. But maybe it could be said verbally. If I thought about it, I don't know. Maybe a minister can say it. I'm not sure.
Right, you are kind of a musical minister in some ways. How is it true that the Europeans and the Japanese keep this music alive?
Oh, they are certainly into the music. They value it much more. It seems to me that they value it more than the Americans, and it comes from here. I think it's that we have so much stuff here, so many things, so many different ways and approaches that we can't. The general public might not be able to focus on a true value of anything.
You think that's it?
I think so.
I mean, all I can say is that I remember when I interviewed Steve Swallow, he was in the studio with Gary Burton, and this was like in the late 60s. This is right around the time you got here. And Steve had brought in his own original tune. It was being produced by Joel Dorn and Arif Mardin, right? And they had made those great Aretha hits. They were known for making hits. And at a certain point, Arif came out into the studio and was starting to tell Steve how to play the song, his song, right? To make it radio friendly, because jazz was not becoming, it was no longer the popular music. You were on Strata East with the Shaman, Stanley Cowell. You've done all of your records have been, for lack of a better word, outside of the mainstream. But if you had a situation where a producer was like, they came to you and said, even though you have this integrity in your music, we want to pop it out, or we want to make it more radio friendly. What is that feeling like? How did you? Because that session kind of, Swallow became very surly. He didn't like it. He felt bad because it was Gary's date.
Oh, yeah.
But he didn't like it. I mean, here's some cat come. I mean, Arif, brilliant arranger. He's telling him to play how to play his tune.
Yeah.
Have you had that before?
No. No.
Is that just because of the fact that you've been on labels that truly believe in the integrity of the artist's music?
Oh yes, and also, I mean, they know me if they're getting me to play the music. They understand.
Uncompromisable.
Yeah, I've been called that so many times, and they know it. So
even that exact phrase.
Oh yeah,
I love it.
So they've gotten in touch with me. They know exactly what to expect. I'm not there to do any popular kind of anything. I'm just there to do whatever the truth is that I feel.
So we have so much stuff here in the States. You feel like there's a saturation of material, and that's why, or is it people's attention spans, or here's the better question: you want to talk about Billy Harper growing up? The significance of music was essential in your culture, in society, and it reflected that. You listen to Stix Hooper play the drums. He's not playing it as a lead. He's playing it as an accompanist instrument. All this stuff was just grooving. The significance and the spirituality of music. How has that changed in our society today? I mean, I wonder if that's why melodic music is not, improvisatory music is not popular.
Well, I'm thinking that maybe some of the younger players didn't have a chance to learn or to understand the connection, and the part of what you're speaking of is also part of the spiritual connection. Whatever Stix Hooper learned, he learned from some guys who were already connected, and he just carried it on further. And it sounds like Stix Hooper. That's fine, but he understands and feels the connection, the spiritual connection, and that's the way it's supposed to be. It's like carried down. The truth is carried down from here to the next level, but it has to be the truth all the time. I mean,
Yeah, well, you can honestly say that even today, if you're petrified to put your horn down because you're afraid that the gift that you were given by the Creator, you would lose it.
Well,
you're a little more settled in it now, but I mean.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if I don't stay in line with that truth, and if it feels like I'm just doing something for money, if it doesn't feel like I'm doing it for truth, if it feels like I'm doing it for money, then I feel like it might be taken away.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because Julian Priester, when I was just transcribing my interview with him, and he was talking about this idea of if you're a musician and you got to pay the rent, and you get a call to do a funk gig or a soul gig or a classical gig, you got to take the gig. You got to pay your rent. But that's a musician. Mm-hmm. As an artist, you have to be willing to know that you won't be paid necessarily right away for your art. It may come in due time. But the question is, I mean, are you able... I mean, have you just turned down gigs merely because, even if they paid well, but if you were being hired out, mm-hmm. would you turn that down because it was against your artistic integrity?
Well, it depends upon the circumstance.
Of course.
I've been in situations where, okay, I'm just hired out and I'm going to do a hired out gig. Okay.
And so you've done that?
Yes.
Okay.
But that means I'm not expecting, I don't have to judge anything. I don't have to be thinking about truth or anything. Amen.
So you don't have to think about truth
I don't have
or
to,
judge.
No,
we don't want judgment anyway, but you don't have to think about the truth that you've been talking about in this interview.
Right.
When you hire...
I'm just being a hired musician.
Hired gun.
Yeah, right. A hired gun.
Hired gun.
and those gigs, that's okay.
What was the strangest hired gun gig you've ever had? Was it like mariachi bands?
Oh, no. I didn't I didn't have to do that. But,
Well, there's just some stuff you're like, I'm gonna go, but I mean, this is way outside my bag.
I remember in Texas, I did play a kind of mariachi type
Did?
thing.
I knew it.
Yeah, but I was just reading music, so it's okay. I didn't have to put my soul and heart in it. I was just reading the music. So yeah, so those gigs where you can just, read the music and follow, you decide that, okay, I'm not here. It's not about what I want to get across to the audience. It's just a matter of accompanying and letting the leader's music get across, whatever he's doing, Otherwise, yeah. But in that instance, and thinking about that, I never did do a lot of rock things.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you do any? I mean, did you get...
Hey, man. How you doing?
People are loving this, by the way.
Yeah.
People are just saying hi to you all on the right now. They say it's great to see you.
Yeah. I didn't do many. I mean...
Well, was there I got to imagine that some horn section from one of those power rock bands that was so hot in the early 70s, they maybe came calling for you one time, and Chicago or
yeah, one time
10-wheel drive or something. Is there one time?
Yeah, but I didn't do it. I didn't. I couldn't quite. I thought about it, but I mean, no, I couldn't. I couldn't do it. I think Joe Henderson might have done it. It's blood, sweat, and tears.
Well, Joe Henderson was playing on Four Tops Records in Motown too. I mean, not that was.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, I think we all did some of that.
But when it comes to your music and your leadership, truth and integrity, is essential.
Of course. Yeah, it's like that truth and integrity I'm talking about is related to the church that you were talking about at the very beginning. Whatever my truth was in the church at the very beginning when I was able to sing as a little kid, that was part of the truth starting right there.
Right.
Yeah.
Was it fascinating to you that, did you grow up with always having rhythm guitar players in your band? Because what's interesting to me is in this evolution of this pocket of music that I listen to obsessively, the saxophone was always the lead instrument. It was always the lead solo instrument, and then over time, the guitar, with the advent of rock, the guitar became a lead solo instrument as opposed to that Freddie Green rhythm guitar.
Uh-huh.
Did you have a rhythm guitarist in your bands?
No, but at one time I didn't think of Ted Dunbar as a rhythm guitarist, but we played together.
Oh, the numerologist.
Yeah,
he was a genius.
Yeah,
dude. He was a chemist, I think.
Yeah, so Ted and I played together in Texas before I came here to New York.
What, was he older than you though?
Yeah, he was just a little older.
And were you guys playing a duo or what?
No. I mean, we were in the same group. We were with James Clay on tenor, Fathead Newman, 3 saxophones, myself, Ted Dunbar.
Fathead?
Yeah.
And you weren't backing up Ray or anyone like that. You were just playing.
No, this was our group.
Oh my God, that is ridiculous. And Dunbar was playing guitar. So what kind of explain this because he could stretch out.
Oh yeah,
but he was
not necessarily doing a big band style. He was
Freddie Green. Yeah, right.
He was much more open, like a piano.
Right.
Yeah, I mean he did like Wes Montgomery, so you can hear some of the kind of lines he might do, much more open, You remember when Wes started doing the octave sounds, and you can use that as background to things. It was great. So he wasn't so concerned about rhythm. I mean, being a rhythm person.
Right.
Yeah.
Were you consciously aware of the fact when all of a sudden you realized that the guitar had overtaken the saxophone as the most popular lead instrument?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't quite aware of that.
Yeah, right. You were burning. You were burning.
It seemed like to me saxophone was always.
Yeah, no, and it's still prevalent today. It's just the guitar at one time, the banjo before that, it was used as
Yeah,
as
yeah.
more of a hypnotic thing. I just want you to talk about also, before I let you go, how you learned to develop your own internal time feel and not rely on the rhythm section. This is really important because everything's sort of locked in today. You say the bass player's got to lock the groove, the drummer's got to keep time. Actually, everybody's got to keep time so that those cats can open up melodically and increase the vocabulary of music.
Jake, that's a very important thing that you're asking, and not a lot of people don't realize and understand the importance of that. Okay, the way it happened with me was that, well, in church, there's when I was small, they were playing with tambourines and things like that,
Sticks.
and keeping all kinds of rhythm, man. Rhythm was happening,
and not necessarily on the 2 and 4 or the 1 and 3. It was
right.
It was all funky.
Yeah, you had some improvising kind of tambourines,
Indigenous rhythm.
Yes. Boom, chicky, chicky, and this is in church.
Oh, I love it. I just love it.
Yeah, I mean, it was so.
What was the name of the church, by the way? I just want to know.
Let's see. It was an African Methodist Episcopal
Beautiful.
church.
Okay. Do you know is there like saying?
One was Richard Allen.
Richard Allen.
Allen AME Church, and Ebenezer Baptist Church. I went to that church. Ebenezer, I remember that name. And the St. Paul AME Church,
So explain how that carried over into your own internal time field to keep time.
Oh, it carried over. Hey man, it carried over sort of as a natural progression because I was little, and all this rhythm was happening around me. I couldn't miss it. It just got into me. I didn't learn it.
Right, and it was jagged and it was different. That's the point. Is it was not. Well, first of all, it wasn't a drum machine at all, and it was not straight 4/4 time either.
Right. It just. Let's see. Let's see. It's almost like having the spirit get into you. The spirit was the rhythm also.
I love it. Go deeper on that, man.
Yeah. It's like the rhythm was in the spirit. The spirit was part of the rhythm. The feeling was the spirit, and eventually, all of it was God. Oh man.
So the rhythm sections are not totally responsible for increasing vocabulary of music, but like you played with Jimmy Hops, you played with so many of these great drummers.
Well, on the first level, on the first mental level, yeah.
I just want to know how you, essentially how vital it is in a conversation to allow the rhythm section to be able to play melodically and break out help increase vocabulary in music.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking first of all about drummers who really have that basic feeling, the basic feeling of not necessarily having to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm talking about the feeling, the feeling, which is you don't have to count.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm used to playing with those kind of drummers, Elvin and Blakey and all those guys.
I mean, it's almost hard. But you must have experiences not playing with those drummers sometimes too, just in the sense of students and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Well, okay. Well, they have to come a long way from an area of mentally defining beats. Yeah, I'm used to being with the drummers who don't even think about
no,
that,
no, it's feel. It's all feel.
Yeah.
They're not even thinking about that. This is.
Right.
But how that just doesn't come from woodshedding in your room. You have to me, there's a humble. How do you get to that point?
Okay, well, still we're talking about the guys who were connected to the spirit of the music, and now for them, you don't have to think about the fact that how does it come? It's just in them. They got it. And they got it probably the way I was from when they were small, from church probably when they were small. It was all around them. They couldn't miss it. It was like in church, boom, bang, gang. But some of the same kind of thing that I'm doing rhythmically here is what you've heard the rhythm and blues guys do. Let me see. I think it was just a matter of changing the words. The words might have been more secular, with the rhythm and blues. But in church, it was the same kind of feeling, but very spiritual. All right, that kind of stuff. That was just basic stuff.
And they're the co-joining of the spirit and the rhythm at the same time.
Yes.
You went to the collegiate jazz festivals. Quincy Jones was a judge. I remember Phil Woods telling me a story, or Bob James. So many cats were discovered at these at the collegiate jazz festivals.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is there anything equivalent that these cats here at the New School, that they can go to and get discovered in a way? I mean, Quincy, cats were getting discovered at these things.
Yeah. But, I think it's those were like big. That was like the Notre Dame Jazz Festival.
Absolutely.
So it was like a competition of a lot of groups with the real jazz guys judging and listening.
Not purists, though. I mean, they had an open mind. They were looking for burning music.
Sure, definitely.
The co-joining of the spirit and all that stuff. But I dig.
Mm-hmm.
They were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
It was like talent recruitment. Does that happen for? Do these cats have a chance to go somewhere? Is there an equivalent thing today?
I think there are more festivals. There are a few more festivals now like that offer an opportunity for some of the musicians to be discovered, as you say. Although when you hear when the judges are now listening to a new discovery or something,
right?
They just make a note of it. It's no big thing. They make a note of it.
Right, before you might wind up with a record deal.
Yeah.
Or you could wind up getting connected to that.
Yeah, because you're gonna hear about 3 more great discoveries, and by now a lot of the younger musicians are privy to information, and if they want to understand something about the feeling, they can understand it at an early age. Of course, you always have those guys who start at 3 years old.
The prodigies and the people like that. So, before I let you go, what's your what do you got on the horizon? I mean, as far as you're in the moment all the time. You're deeply, steeped in the spirit of where are you at right now? What do you got going on?
I think maybe soon there's going to be another European tour.
So the Cookers or
the Cookers are going to do it.
And who's in the? It's Eddie Henderson,
Billy
Hart,
Cecil McBee.
Oh my man!
Yeah.
Love that cat. Is he still in New England Conservatory teaching?
Yes, New England. And George Cables.
Oh, Cables just chimed in and said hello to you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Good, were loving it, man.
Right.
So the Cookers, we're
still doing something.
And you're going to Europe.
Probably, yeah.
And
we usually a little tour in Europe or something, different countries. It's been a good thing traveling. I think that because it seems that the music seems to be appreciated more in Europe abroad than here. So there are many other opportunities, and it doesn't have to be just Europe. It can be Istanbul.
That's what Sudan. The album you made about Sudan. When was the first time you went to the motherland?
Let's see. The first time I think was with.
Did you go with Tolliver and Roach and those cats?
I did.
This is the heaviest stuff in the world because I mean, I just for my own, addled brain, Roach was going there for educational purposes. Explain why
I was playing with Max, and we were going there to play a festival with Randy Weston, who was living there. In Morocco.
Morocco.
Yes. So that was my first big trip there. Randy had already been trying to have a school and teach some students some stuff, music there. And he was going to have this big festival. Max was one of the headliners of the festival, and it turned out that he wasn't able to get all the groups together. I think he had three, one, two, three, maybe three groups. But it was going to be a big festival, bigger than three. But
it was like 67 or roughly about
66, 67, 66 maybe.
And he went to meet with Sigmund. What was the name of the cat that they were going to meet with about? It wasn't Sigmund. It was one of the leaders of the countries.
I'm not sure. I don't remember the name.
But the idea of bringing the music, educating the people that all the misinformation that was going on in Africa and the repression of ideas. I mean, Max was pushing back against that. He wanted to bring the original culture to the motherland. Is that correct?
Yes. Max was always spearheading that kind of thing. In his whole career, he was always pushing to get the music connected to Africa because he knew the connection, how it makes sense. Yeah. And in dealing with him, Blakey was also doing that, especially musically. I mean, his stuff was sounding African all the time. He was just a natural African player. And
so was Weston too.
Oh yeah.
But the idea is that at the most superficial mainstream level in Morocco or wherever, that was not known to most people. That the music of the jazz, I don't necessarily love that word, but that music came from the rhythms came from the motherland.
Well, maybe people hadn't talked about it or said it. I think the musicians knew. Seems like you can't miss that. I mean, especially the drummers. I mean, almost all drummers have to know. I mean, some kind of way. I would imagine. Can't miss it.
You paid homage to. Did you make that album in Sudan?
No. But I also, when I was in college, I was practicing ridiculous hours all day, and then I get so tired. Whenever I got tired, then I just jumped on drums and played.
Oh, I
drums.
love it. On the traps, dude. You got tired of your mouth got tired, your lips got tired.
Yeah. So then I learned a lot about rhythm from.
I didn't know that you jumped on the traps, dude.
Yeah, and so it seemed that. Well, there was also a good drummer I played with in Houston, Malcolm Pinson. And
is he still with us? Or
no, he passed away. But he loved Blakey and Elvin, so we were in that groove together, and I understood some stuff about the drums also. Well, so by the time I got to New York, so easy, the connection with Blakey or Elvin, just easy,
Well, you'll be at Birdland. Cable said you'll be at Birdland soon.
Yeah.
So, Billy Harper, it was just so great to meet you in person at the New School, and
Jake, it was my pleasure, man.
What an honor, man. Thank you for taking the time.
Yes, of course.
This is the Jake Feinberg Show, and we'll be back later.